All right, welcome back. In this section, I'm going to teach you the art of fancy chords. Now, it's really not hard at all. Most musicians want to know, how you play that chord. It sounds so good. Really, the concept is very simple, but you're going to have to change your train of thought because what you're going to have to start doing with your left hand is take over what you do in your right hand. So pretty much what I mean by that is your left hand is going to play the chords that you normally will play in your right. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. One way is to tie your hand behind your back and just, when you practice, just practice like that. Or you can just really, when you're learning songs, just learn it with your left hand. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but really you're going to have to get your left hand used to being used to play chords instead of playing just bass notes because it's going to take that step. And really it's not that easy, but the first step is what's going to be necessary. So you're going to be struggling from time to time with certain chords, but what you can do, you can take simple songs like and this isn't even a song, this is chord progressions, but what's the song? Oh, How I Love Jesus. So taking simple songs will be a start, to getting your left hand developed because after a while you're going to be playing more notes and things are going to get maybe a little bit more difficult. But the art is to, take the left hand and take over the role of the right hand. For example, when you're playing a chord like this, and this is, I want to keep going back to this chord because, this is one that we've covered a lot, okay? And this is a D minor 9. Your left hand would completely take over that role. And then the next thing to do would be, okay, how do I find my right hand chord? Most of the time, the right hand chord is going to be a 3-finger chord, a 3-finger triad. Most of the time. And what you're going to do, you're going to really use the whole step rule, really. So when wanting to find a different voicing for this particular chord, you count down a whole step, and then you get a C major chord. Now this is a particular chord that can be inverted into different inversions, both your left hand and the right hand. And really the art of fancy chords is really, getting the basics. What am I playing in my left hand? What am I playing in my right hand? And then from there, just inverting both of those. But really the secret behind it is once you get the chords down, the key to it is having a good ear as far as knowing how each chord sounds before you play it. Say, for example, if you play this particular voicing of this chord, no matter what key you play it in, a certain note is going to stick out the most, and it's this E. Okay? It doesn't matter what key you're playing in. So if you're playing a song that has a certain melody, and this is the melody, you can play this voicing, and it's gonna work really well. So really the idea is once you get the chord progressions down, it's a matter of connecting the melody with the voicings, because a lot of times your right hand is going to carry the melody of the chord, and knowing what particular voicing matches a certain melody, okay? That's really the key to it. And once you get to a level where you're practicing using the circle of fours, practicing in all 12 keys, certain chords, say for example, you take the same chord and try to practice it in all 12 keys, like this chord. Once you get to a certain point of doing this over and over and over, the melody of this particular chord is going to stick in your head, and you're going to know it just by memory. And it's going to be great because when you play certain songs, the chord is going to stick out in your head. Okay, ooh, this chord will sound good right here because you hear it, before you play it. And that's just the experience of practicing the chord, trying to learn it in all 12 keys. So really, the art is more so the application of practicing it over and over and getting it into your head to the point where you can hear it before you play it. And that's really the goal that you want as far as playing these fancy chords, because it's good to know them, but you got to know how to apply them too as well. So really, the first step, practice your left hand, practice it with basic stuff. Don't do anything that's too complicated that will overwhelm you, because you're going to find yourself defeated time and time again. You're going to give up. So you want to start with something more within your reach that you can do and build your confidence up. The more you do it, then escalate to something a little bit more challenging. But what you can do to start would be just start with your left hand. I wouldn't even, have my right hand in the chord yet. So if it's a certain chord like an E flat major 7 or any type of major 7, just start with that. Take your time, figure out how to play it in your left hand in all 12 keys. Okay? And I messed up right there. But the idea is to get that experience in. And once you get your left hand used to doing it, it's muscle memory. Your fingers are going to get used to doing it, and your ear is going to get used to hearing it. So you're building up two things at once. You're building up the muscle memory as far as the fingering and how it feels on the piano, as well as your ears getting used to how it sounds. So that's the best thing that you can do. Okay, so we got the chords, but time and time again I hear people say, okay, well, I understand the chords, but I always hear you doing something different, a little something extra. What is that? Well, that's called grace notes and different feels. And really, there's a technique behind that too as well. I've got it down to a science. I've learned it off a lot of gospel records, and once you get the feel and the muscle memory, once you keep doing it, it's going to become natural. Even if you practice it in one key, when you get to other keys, you're going to automatically start doing it. Basically, when you do triad chords in your right hand, most of the time, you're going to pivot off the 2, or your 2 is going to be your grace note. Say, for example, a C chord. The 2 of C or the 9 of C would be D. I use that as a grace note. It doesn't matter what inversion. So let's go back to this chord with the C major chord on my right hand. I practice these grace notes so much that I can do that off of the D minor 9 or D minor 11 chord. I can do this off of C, off of A too. And arpeggiating is key too. Really, when you hear a lot of things going on, it's probably a lot of arpeggiation. You can take the same chord and go all the way up the key, and it sounds beautiful. Arpeggiating your chords is very key too as well. So take chords like this and arpeggiate these. You can even arpeggiate off the circle of fourths and fifths too as well. Okay, so 2 things, the grace notes. Practicing the grace notes off the 2 of any major chord. And you're gonna just get used to it. So whenever, you can practice that off the circle of fourths and fifths too as well. So that way, whenever you get into any particular chord, and you know that major chord in your right hand, you're gonna automatically start, giving that grace note to the chord, that flavor. Now, you won't always be playing the chord in this particular inversion, so you would have to practice the different inversions of the chord too. Even if I'm playing the chord like this, and the E major chord in my right hand might not automatically be finished, but I kind of have an idea, okay, I can still use that grace note because it's still in the chord. The E major chord really is still in the chord. It's right here. So that's why I said practicing those inversions, because when you play chords that have that particular major chord in it, you can use that grace note. Even like we have an A major chord right here. Use the 2 of that A major chord. So really the concept is really simple. Once you start applying it, you're gonna come up with your own principles and mindsets about how you think about things. Me and Jermaine, we might have the same chord, but our whole approach of how we understand it could be totally different. So the more and more you practice, the more you're gonna have your own understanding of it. And that's how you're gonna create your own style. So practicing those arpeggios and practicing those grace notes are gonna help you to create your own style. And they're gonna enhance your playing as far as the fancier style of playing, all right? So you got the basic concepts, practice that left hand, get that work in, because you're gonna have to do it on a daily basis to see growth. Also, practice those grace notes, practice those arpeggios. Those are the basics and fundamentals to creating the advanced, the fancy chords, all right? I'll see you in the next section.